This place wants us dead.
What could have done that?
There must be a bear.
A bear did that.
I found only one set of prints. Large, 20 inches across.
I do not believe it is an animal we battle.
Not a man, not a bear. Then what?
It's the ice, Georgie. It's only the ice.
Welcome to Ice Cold, the Double P Podcast Network review of AMC's The Terror. This time we're on episode 4 of season 1, Punished as a Boy. Whoa. My name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM at Fit and Trim on Twitter.
And I am Catfish, a cold fish. And you can reach me at CJGman67 on Twitter only. I'm exclusive. I haven't made the Northwest Passage to other social media services.
Let me say that both Catfish and I have read the book by the famous author
Dan Simmons
that this first series is based upon. It is also based upon real-life history, and we are going to not spoil the books, not spoil real-life history if as best we can help it. But today, Catfish, we're talking about Episode 4, Punished as a Boy. What is your ranking out of 10 for this specific episode?
Well, I'm going to give it 8, what I like to call triple L's.
Triple L's?
Yeah, lucky lad lashings. Like, you're a lucky lad to get all those lashings. I feel like he still deserves a few, though. That wasn't 30. I feel a little bit ripped off.
Again. Again.
And what about you, Bubba? What did you give tonight's episode? Punched as a Boy.
Punished as a Boy.
Okay.
Well, I feel like we got punished as an audience. I'm going to only go 7 double H's that become double B's out of 10.
Wait a second. Are you saying you've got double H's transmogrifying into double B's? What is this, Bubba?
So 7 out of 10, it's hinky heinies that become bloody butts.
Well done. I doff my cap to you, good sir. So, even though you don't have mutton chops.
So let me say that 7 out of 10... If they could have rejiggered the episode so that the episode ended on such a strong moment of those lashings and those whippings, oh my God.
Well, they could have if they'd actually given him the full amount. I'm agitating for the full amount.
But because it ends on this moment, which maybe is a way to look forward into the future where we see Mr. Good Sir talking to Lady Silence, I didn't think that was a strong ending, so I went down to 7 out of 10. I did think that up through those lashings, this was a pretty darn good episode of television.
I think from now on, I'm going to do a rating, and then I'm going to deduct a point for every time there's another frickin' Sir John. There were 3 Sir Johns in tonight's episode.
Well, I don't know if the final one was a Sir John.
Okay, sorry. There were 3 Johns. Look, I know this is based on a true story, but can we give these people some names? They're all bundled up. They're all white dudes. Can we have some Aloysiuses? How about some Pietros? Give us some people. Give us some different names, for God's sakes. Help a brother out.
If listeners, you want to go to our Facebook page for Double P Podcast, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Double P Podcast. That's the word double, the single letter P, the word podcast, plural, podcast with an S on the end. Facebook.com/Double P Podcast, and maybe give us some nicknames for this incredible gathering of frosty, cold, iced, white British dudes.
If Tuunbaq's name was John, that'd be okay, because we know who we're talking about. There's only one beast, and there's a bunch of white dudes. Help us out. Can we be Tuunbaq, Toonclock, Foonshock? Just make them close, but please help us out.
Yeah, give us some nicknames on our Facebook page.
I'm talking to the people behind the terror.
Okay.
Stop naming people John, for God's sake.
No, this was based on the real crew's name.
They don't need to help. They don't need to do that to us. Come on.
Now, listeners, I'm going to say this right up front. We're going to get to your feedback right up front.
Okay.
And listeners, we don't like to ask things of you.
We don't?
This podcast is available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and YouTube.
Wow.
Recently, we got an email that said, hey, would you like to have paid ads on your podcast? And it was from a e-cig place. Like, hey, we're trying to get ads for an e-cig place. nothing against e-cigs. If you smoke e-cigs, if you smoke regular cigarettes, we don't mind. But because we're doing this for free and not putting any ads up, that means all the cost, $10 a month for hosting this podcast, is on us. We don't have ads, and we're currently not running this e-cig ad. Mm-hmm. If you could please do us a couple of things in replace of ads.
Well, what are those couple things?
You don't have to listen to ads on the podcast, but if you could go to our Facebook page and like the Facebook page, begin the discussion there. We get so much of your feedback after the episode is already aired and after our podcast has been recorded. After you watch an episode, if you watch it there Monday nights, go straight to our Facebook page and give us some comments there so we can include them on the podcast, or go to our Twitter handles. Anything you could do to help us out to grow the feedback, because it's been really great. So we're going to...
You know what? One suggestion we can make, too, is...
Yeah.
People can also comment on the Facebook.com page, facebook.com/Double P podcast, whether they want to hear the minute of us asking them to give them feedback, or would they rather hear the e-cig ad. Look, their vote matters.
So we're going to begin with some of the feedback we got over the last week from Facebook. And Catfish, why don't you note this first one from a great Double L loyal listener named Susan M. Dunkel.
Susan Dunkel says... Tuunbaq, the most frightening Arctic monster ever.
And do you see what she had a picture of in the
She's
feedback?
got the picture of Bumble. We love Bumble.
The snowman from the Rudolph and Reindeer holiday special. That's hilarious. Now, Susan also put some feedback in, which I kind of scrubbed clean, and she just said, once again, this is a fictional account of a real-life story of the Terror and the Erebus. Susan noted in some of her feedback that Hickey is considered a villain a bit by history. And then another great Double L, Nathan Dawkin, wrote, he said, how does Bubba like Hickey at all so far? Sure, he smokes a mean cigarette. But he assumedly stole the ring off Young's dead finger when he jumped in to put the top back on the casket. He took a dump on Mr. Gibson's bed.
And he said it seems like they're making him quite the villain. All I'll say is, these might be some double L's, but perhaps they're not aware of your personality, Bubba. You love the villains.
No, wait a minute. In the first episode, sure, Hickey may have stole the ring. But in the second episode, when he got busted having adult relations, he did kind of feel like a chump. He did feel like, hey, I'm getting attacked for getting rid of Cravens. Mr. Gibson kind of flipped it and made it seem like Hickey was the bad guy to everybody. Hickey, another reason why I liked him through the first two episodes, and we're going to have to talk about whether he's good in this episode, but one of the reasons I think I also liked Hickey through the first couple episodes is Hickey was like a low man. He was the common man. He wasn't the captain. He wasn't in charge.
He wasn't the lowest.
So Hickey was a common man. He was a common soldier. He's just a grunt. And so I kind of wanted to support the grunts. And so how do you feel about Mr. Hickey? Because in this episode, he really does take an odd turn, and he really, really pays the price for it.
Well, funnily enough, from a modern point of view, to me, he seems like, okay, he went out and did something proactively, and I guess you're supposed to ask for permission to do anything. But even when he said, I looked at him, Tuunbaq was there with Lady Silence, they seem to be communicating in some way, so it's clear that she has a connection to him. And rather than saying, oh my goodness, let's follow up on that, they beat him, which is strange because... our boy Crozier seems to have sort of an affinity for the Eskimo, whereas most people on the ship don't care. So
they see all their comrades, all their pals getting destroyed. Of course, you're going to search for a reason.
Right, but even before then, in other words, he holds our boy Hickey to a standard of you disrespected a woman. Yeah. Like she was in society, but most people on the ship, even before Tuunbaq, had a very low opinion of the Eskimo. So it's sort of a little weird. I don't know whether we're supposed to identify with Crozier as sort of a modern day that he's woke regarding the Eskimo. But despite that, I still feel like Hickey has come up with kind of a solution. It may be heavy-handed, but, we've got a connection to Tuunbaq. It's this woman. She's in league with him. And to me, that seems like Hickey's the smarter one in this scenario.
Well, do you believe everything Hickey said, that, she was communicating with it and that it saw us and it ran away? Maybe she said something and it ran away. What should we just take Hickey's word at face value? We didn't see this happen at all.
We didn't, but we know from what happened earlier in the episode, we don't assume that Lady Silence was the one making a puzzle out of the men.
No, but...
So that would seem to me to indicate, okay, this beast that we now know is something smarter than a man... smarter than a bear, but...
He might be smarter than a man, though, too.
Right, well, some of these men, but more dangerous, physically imposing than a man. I can believe that she's communicating with him. We'll take him at his word.
Okay, all right.
So I feel like if maybe they were setting up as the villain before tonight, I feel like from my sensibilities here and knowing what's going on, it seems like he is kind of set up to be sort of sympathized with tonight. In other words, he comes up with a good plan. He just gets lashed for it.
A plan that Crozier was going to do the following morning. He was going to say, yeah, let's go talk to this lady.
Right. And the fact that they didn't seem like they were rough with her. You know, they just
They did tie her up. They did tie her up.
Okay, yeah, but, you know.
What do you mean, yeah, but?
Well, she's slippery out there.
Oh.
This is her native environment. It wasn't like they didn't beat her or anything. They just captured her and brought her back. I guess to me, I was kind of following along with you, and I was like, okay, this guy is. I didn't think of him as a super villain. He got told on life was rough, and so he took a crap on someone's bed. Big deal.
Big deal.
I mean, you know, everybody.
Right, listen, we're getting too...
Everybody deals with trouble in different ways.
Okay, let's. We'll get back to more Hickey because he is really becoming kind of a co-lead. It feels like on this show.
Well,
let's get
looking at me.
Let's go further with the feedback.
All right, okay. Peter Connolly,
yeah,
another double L, loyal listener.
Oh,
he says was very surprised that Sir John faked his own death, just like King Joffrey in Game of Thrones. He was holding his breath in the whole time under the water and then snuck out when no one was looking.
If Sir John Franklin, in this case of the Johns, came back, that would really jump the Tuunbaq. It would jump the Tuunbaq.
This is a reference to another podcast that Bubba and I do, the Game of Thrones podcast.
Entitled The Joffrey Podcast. You can find it on all those places I listed above.
Yeah, it's about the greatest character in the history of the world, real or fictional, King Joffrey. And what he's referring to there is kind of a spoiler alert, is that King Joffrey has faked his own death, which we'll all see in the final season of Game of Thrones when he comes back and takes care of business.
We also got some great feedback from YouTube. YouTubers, please come to our Facebook page after you watch the episode, and hopefully you can have your immediate feedback on the episode read during the actual episode. We got from Snakey973, wrote, I love this series, but the book is next level horrifying. We'll see if the series can live up to the book. Snakey973 says that's a tall order. Let me say that because we read the book, or I read the book 11 years ago, I know where it's going, but there are two big set pieces. And when you talk about next level horrifying, one of the remaining set pieces from the book that the show may do, the show may not do. I remember, that was pretty horrifying. So I think it's doing a pretty good job. Maybe it's tough for any medium to live up to the book where you can go so deep. How do you feel about that?
Right, and you can kind of imagine things here. Now they've got to, pardon the pun, flesh it out here, and so
flesh wounded out here.
It's really hard to make things as creepy and scary as they can be in books. It's generally just a very tough thing.
All right, we also got feedback from Mike R., who wrote, I like your podcast, but believe the show, The Terror, deserves its own talking series with Chris Hardwick. Talking Terror.
Whoa, Mike, didn't we just explain that we're doing this for free? And then Mike comes on, and he delivers what to me is the ice cold line of the week. Every week we talk about a different line from the show where someone is really, really just smacking someone down. And what happened was Mike R. listened to the podcast and decided to show us the back of his hand. And not just show us, but show us as it was coming closer and closer to our faces. Mike, we do our best.
We're trying. Also from YouTube, we had SMH 9000 wrote, "Do you remember Jared Harris in Fringe? Hashtag ice cold." SMH also writes, "Tuunbaq doesn't seem interested in actually eating anything."
He's a picky eater. He is a picky eater. He doesn't seem to fully eat the guys. Doesn't really seem to eat them at all.
No.
He brings a nice seal to Lady Silence without a bite taken out of it.
Right.
Maybe he's on a diet.
I said that it was summertime there, and so he was trying to get down to, swim weight.
nice beach weight. Frank Dodd on YouTube says, "Mr. Crozier, keep your dirty, filthy, drunken Irish hands off my daughter." That's the essence of it. But it was Sir John's niece, I think. Either way, funny.
Yeah, that's true for Frank Dodd. Yeah, somebody else's banner is what she should be under, according to the late, great Sir John. And Sir John's wife wasn't exactly a fan of Captain Crozier, was she? Whoa.
To me, it seems like she was driving that train.
Yeah, for sure. Final bit of feedback we got was from Slackman Catfish.
He says, "Mr. Good Sir has bad luck when it comes to being the last person to see someone alive right before they die. I don't think he's the monster, but that has to mean something." So, is he saying Mr. Good Sir is in league with the monster? You know what? This could be, they could do next season.
Season 2.
The Terror. Tuunbaq and Good Sir. They're a team, like Turner and Hooch. They're solving crimes.
So why don't we get to this episode? We're being a bit lighthearted, mainly because there's so much terror and people getting whipped, and it feels like in the podcast we try to keep it lighthearted to bring our spirits back
Well, not only
up.
that, I mean, they're on one ship that
is in trouble. What did they say? It was 9 inches up and pitching. So, ooh.
It seems like the ice is trying to crack it like a walnut.
Oh, yeah, not good. They want people to move from the Terror to the Erebus.
Good point here. Your choice is, do I go to a ship that's not being cracked like a walnut, or do I get slightly more horrible tasting spoiled food?
Flip a coin. Typical life's choices.
Well, once it turns out that you could get whipped just for showing a little bit of impetus, people decide, nah, I don't need that extra spoiled food. Let's go over to JFJ's ship.
Heck yeah, we're going to talk about JFJ as well. But first I want to get to Sir John Franklin's wife, who is doing something I think a lot of us at this point are really excited about. She's sick of not hearing any word. She wants to find out what happened to her husband. She brings her niece there, her niece who has rejected Francis Crozier twice, her niece entitled Sophia Crocroft. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But she wants to know what's happening. So she goes to these admirals, I would assume, other Argonauts, self-described Argonauts, and she's like, what the blank is going on? And I'm like, bully for her.
Oh, that's quite time appropriate for you to huzzah to her.
Well, she, I was mentioning that we're being a bit lighthearted. In honor of the podcast, she dropped some ice colds as well. Now, which did you think was her biggest ice cold? When she went up to all these guys, which include Sir James Ross, the young one, who we've seen throughout the series, as well as the guy who played the Blackfish on Game of Thrones, who plays Sir James Ross's uncle, Sir John. There's another John Ross, and she's like, listen, you fools, most of you gentlemen have written your memoirs. I've read them. The past tense is a very sturdy thing. It's earned, but it does take for granted that one has survived. Oh, ice cold. I'm sick of your memoirs, losers. But probably her biggest ice colds are saved for her own husband. Yeah, he's not perfect. He wasn't your first choice, or your second, or your third. It's almost like she's with the whip again. Ice cold about her husband.
The niece, who I believe is Mrs. Craycroft.
Craycroft, right. Sophia.
She gets in kind of a good dig, too, because they're kind of patronizing the ladies. They're like, you don't know anything. We assume he's here. And she's like, oh, well, that's funny because I kind of thought they'd be there, but she thought he'd be over here. They're just dropping left and right. Like, we know where these places are.
Yeah.
We can read a map that's frozen.
Love it. They end their part of the story, not the flashbacks to before, but they end their part of the story by saying, you know what? Screw these old retired memoir writing jerks. Let's go get our own ship to find what's going on.
I'll say this, though. It's particularly bad news when you say to somebody, are you going to do something? And they say yes. And instead of saying, a day or a week or a month. They say a year. Are you going to do something about it? Yes, we're going to do something about it in 2021. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Ouch, ouch, ouch. I want to point out, and I've been meaning to point out, here we are on the 4th episode, Sir John Franklin's wife is played by the famous actress, I'm going to use the word famous actress, Greta Scacchi, who in the...
Scacchi, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, in the 80s and 90s, she was a total... You would hire her to be the sexy femme fatale in multiple movies. And let's just say she hasn't been frozen in ice. She has aged like a normal person over 30 years. And now she is playing, instead of the young, sexy femme fatale, she's playing kind of the old busybody who's going to drop ice cold snaps on you if you don't go save her damn first choice, second choice, third choice husband.
You know, we should all live long enough to no longer be the femme fatale.
I won't. All right, so anything else? Do you want to get... Let's go ahead and just deal with all their things, including the flashbacks. Sir Francis Crozier asked Sophia to marry him twice, man. And she said no, twice, man. But theoretically, she said, go on this cruise and keep my uncle safe. I'm not going to marry you after you beg twice to marry me, but... save my uncle on this expedition? Damn.
Now, presumably, this is one of my medium ice cold lines.
Okay.
Is
lukewarm
what
cold.
Crozier says to JFJ, he says he was ordered to go on this trip, and it's by the niece.
Right.
And he says she told him, keep Sir John safe and ensure his orders. And I guess ensure means... make sure people pay attention, but what she really should have said was countermand any idiotic orders.
Ouch, yeah. But also, this James to James, I don't think he's trying to do a nice goal, but he's like, yeah, I heard the story. Everybody heard the story.
Yeah.
That you got rejected twice.
Yeah, that was one of my other ice cold lines when she says, when JFJ says, you mean the woman who rejected you twice? Bam. Now... in the flashback, she seems to have, you know, I like it when someone has more than one reason for something.
Okay, yeah, let's hear this.
Well, you know, she's got a bevy of reasons why she doesn't want to be with him. One, and this one rings true. Basically, it sucks being a seaman's wife. Because they're out all the time, and you're just at home doing whatever, waiting for them to come back. Boring, no parties, and especially for these people who go on like these 2-year expeditions.
Yeah. Oh man!
And then he says, "Well, you know, look, after this, I'm gonna stay home. Everything's gonna be okay." And then she's like, "Speaking of home,
yeah, she's a double.
Sucks."
Yeah, she's like, I call her a double D,
a double D,
drawer disser. She's like, you have like 5 drawers, but you're only using 2. That's a burr.
I'd be like, I'm saving 3 for you.
Oh, that would be sweet.
That would be good, but she'd come up with just another excuse. But she does say slightly, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Which seems to indicate that I don't know what mistake she made, because if she'd married him or not, she'd still be in this situation where he's not around and he's a drunk.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, now, since we're there, you have been very tough on my boy JFJ. What has James ever done that's really wrong? Yeah, he was sucking up to a captain he loved in Sir John Franklin. But he's right. You got to cut down on the alcohol, dude. You're the leader. What the hell's going on, Crozier?
Speaking of, I mean, JFJ was definitely not in Catfish's crew. I know he was on Bubba's boat, but he wasn't on Catfish's crew. What I assumed was going to happen was that he was going to foment trouble against Crozier.
And it still may happen. We've only seen 4 episodes.
Yeah, but maybe when he does it, I think by the time he does it, we'll agree with him.
Yeah.
But I thought he was just going to do it out of hand, and he's saying you didn't want to come here. Then Crozier explains why, but he's basically supporting, just like Sir John, the original, not the other 3 we've talked about on today's episode. The original Sir John said, look, he's a good man. You're going to be, you'll be his second, and command is very important to him, the command structure. And I thought JFJ might be ready to boot Crozier off of Catfish's crew, but he didn't yet. So far, I'm going to say he's not in Catfish's crew, but he's Catfish crew adjacent.
Oh, good work, JFJ. You've worked your way adjacent. The episode really begins after the women saying, "Hey, find our men." We go. We see our guys are celebrating a birthday party by shaving a guy's head. Boy, when it's ice cold outside, removing all the guy's hair, not too cool. But then we also see our guy Henry Goodsir. He's
celebrating the party in his own way.
Right. I called it flipping through his Facebook feed. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Look at this
well,
photo.
let's just say he's flipping through his body book feed.
Yeah, so he's got, here's Sir John Franklin when he made me take that picture out on the ice. He took some pictures of the guy who lost his head to Tuunbaq last week, and he's looking at him. And what's interesting is if you look at this guy's torso, his wounds, if those are claw marks, they're pretty far away. Dang. That means Tuunbaq has giant paws, baby.
Yeah, he does. Or he's only got 2 claws on each paw, and he got him with both paws. Pinned him on the ground. Tuunbaq.
If you were Captain Crozier, you're now in charge of everything. And he's getting drunk. Let's just call it what it is. And he's supposed to go to these meetings. He's like, what's on the agenda for the meetings? He feels defeated already. I know that. What are you going to do? You've been trapped in the ice. Who knows how many months now? You're getting close to a year trapped in this ice.
Well, but clear this up for me. Because Crozier's plan before Sir John got delegged and tossed down a hole was to take a search party and go off.
Yeah, send them, 800 miles on foot in 3 months to find some people in, I assume, like Baffin Bay area.
Right. So he had to abandon that plan, but wasn't he still going to send some people out, or did he send those people out?
He sent them out. He sent them out last week,
but it's been
about 5 months.
5 months later, what
it feels like. So, but imagine that. So, say you sent people 3 months and they actually made it. 3 months, 800 miles. Then isn't it going to be pretty close to another 3 months before help gets? They're just going to some whalers. The whalers can't come and save you.
Well, no, but that's the other thing. The second thing is they're just letting people know where they are because they think they'll never get out of the ice.
Right.
If those people go get help, they still can't come back to them until the following summer. They can make that trip back. You can't make the trip in the winter. It's going to be brutal.
On foot? Yeah, no. Boy. Yeah.
On foot.
Thank God they have all those provisions.
Saddle up Tuunbaq.
Yeah, he moves pretty quick. He does.
He does.
The birthday bash is interrupted by this horrific sight up top of the deck. Tuunbaq apparently took somebody's scalp off while he was on the deck, for God's sakes. Whoa. Not good. Holy smokes. Very bloody. Very disgusting. Tuunbaq scalped somebody, man. Not nice.
You don't mess with Tuunbaq, but also you want to take all of Tuunbaq's allies away, a.k.a. Lady Silence.
All right, well, we will see. This ends up causing a real terrible thing. So, okay, you've lost 2 men. You've lost 2 men in this particular incident. There was somebody out on the ice, William Strong, who was out there, and Tuunbaq took him. Then you lost this guy with the scalp. Now, I can't tell at this point because it's so far into winter, you would assume, or close to winter, that there isn't much daylight. But why do you send search parties out?
Well, and then
split them up.
You made a good point, though. However, when I said to you, you said it's awful dark, and I said, well, maybe it's daytime, but you said no, there's the northern lights, and so I looked it up. The northern lights are only from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Those are the only times the northern lights show up. Presumably, even when it's dark. There was a quick look up, so maybe someone has some better opinion, but it does seem once something comes and snatches it off the ship that you should just say, well, you know what, we learned our lesson, and let's not have people alone out on the deck. Let's have everybody armed up on the deck. Not let's go take 4 people.
Well, I think it was 6 people. Yeah, split up into parties of 2. Yeah,
into parties of 2. It just seems ill-advised. At this point, what you know about Tuunbaq, even this is before they hear the story and they start to realize, okay, this Tuunbaq is something special. Still, it seems ill-advised.
Right.
to me.
In what's especially tragic is, it's supposed to be soldiers that are going, and this one ship's boy is accordingly his title, who wants to go. He's like, let me go. I want to fight it. I want to kill this thing that killed
Evans.
Sir John. And Crozier
Let's remember Evans's name. We won't have to remember it for too long.
No, how tragic. And so Crozier's like, okay, you can go, but you can come with me.
Yeah, I've got a steady hand. I've only had 4 glasses of, bottles.
Oh, my
of whiskey
Lord,
today.
how utterly tragic. Did you feel the tenseness? To me, my whole mind is like, you got to be kidding. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. So even though, once again, you really, in this particular instance, don't see anything. You just see the end results, where they go looking for this guy who's on the ice. They find him, and they split up. And then this poor kid, R.I.P. Evans. Oh. And Tuunbaq is laying a friggin' trap for him.
Yeah, just
way to separate him. Man.
Someone said that before they went out. Maybe he is, trying to get us to come out onto the ice. So what do? You go out of the damn ice. You're like, oh, these northern lights are.
Yeah, this is a terrible. Once again, a terrible tourism video for Greenland and Iceland. Come see the northern lights, and then get northern lighted up. I thought this was a very tense scene. I loved it.
You thought it was tense because I thought he was, to me, I was already writing off Evans. Done.
So tragic. And Tuunbaq, when he killed Evans and when he killed this guy out on the ice, all that remains is just a blood stain, man. Youch. Ooh.
But like you said, Tuunbaq is not following kind of the unwritten laws of the wild, which is if you kill something, you got to use all parts of it. He's sport killing, Tuunbaq. He's spoiled by the West.
So I would love to know how many, for lack of a better word, victims Tuunbaq has by this point, because it is way too much. And it's tough to be Team Tuunbaq when he is just busy cutting people left and right, but youch. And then after the commercial break, they come back, and this is a great little moment where Blanky and Crozier are up on the ship, and they see the sun rise and the sun set. It was a very short picture of the sun. They're so friggin' far north. This show is shot on sound stages in Budapest, in that area, as well as some of the outdoor scenes, like on the island, which was real rocky, were filmed in Croatia. One of the great things that they said when they were making this show is that, hey, you know what? Because of global warming, it wasn't like they could go find a place where they could actually film this actually on this Earth, where you would have this giant ice sheet where you could film everybody. I think it still looks great, even though it's sound stages. Really, really good work. Crozier comes back. He's lost another man, and so he's really hitting the booze. And this is where JFJ, I think, is a logical guy. Like, what the hell is going on? If you're saying it's not a bear, it's not a man, what the hell is it then?
Yeah, and like I said earlier, he actually shows himself to be a reasonable guy, and they actually have a very good conversation, as much as Crozier can actually still form words at this point because he is boozed up.
Let me ask you, all these camera angles, which I think are very effective when they're on these ships, all these camera angles are slightly Dutch.
It shows so that you feel like you're trapped. The ceilings are so low.
The ceilings are low. It's claustrophobic, but also because they're kind of Dutched, I'm like, well, this ship isn't sitting level in the ice. Neither of these ships would be sitting level in the ice anymore. And so, like, when Crozier's drunken glass slides from one end of the table to another, you're like, uh-oh. This is bad news.
Now, in this scene, we do get my ice-cold line of the week.
Let's hear it.
Because after he explains, Crozier explains kind of everything that happened with the niece, he says, don't pity me. He said, save all your pity for what's coming.
Ooh.
Ice
cold. The main doctor, I would call him the lead doctor on this.
Dr. Jerkwad. Let's call him Dr.
just call him. Yeah, we forget, because his first name's probably John, too. I'm kidding.
Exactly.
I'm kidding. It's not.
John Jerkwad.
But at this point, I mean, what the hell? He's like, I don't want to deal with this guy. What was he saying? Super glue his eyes shut? That putty?
No, you just want a little wax. Look, just to be decent and respectful, you want to close someone's eyes before you send them off. I'll admit, his fancy doctoring is beyond me at this point. I don't know exactly what a doctor does in those days as opposed to a surgeon, but I know I'd like to be in good sir's hands.
Amen. Now, outside...
Although I don't want to be handled by good sir, because that means you're dead. But
next to go. But outside, while they're putting this dead guy's eyes closed, we see some of the discontent that would happen if these guys are trapped on this ice for so long. One of the dead guys is a Royal Marine. The Marines are like, you know what? We didn't volunteer for this. We were put here. We're not getting overtime pay.
Right, we're not getting Tuunbaq hunting pay.
Right. And yet they step up to be the first in line to cut it down. And who's hearing this? Hickey. Hickey's, hearing these Marines talk their trash about, we're the ones out there. We're the ones doing it. We're the ones battling this. And so Hickey, once again, I kind of think he might have a real heel turn coming. But so far in this episode, he goes up on deck. He has a very tense, maybe the greatest moment in this episode for me is, he's watching the deck. I have to ask, why the hell are you even watching? What's the point? Watching for what? There's only one thing out there to see. What, you're watching for pirates? Give me a break.
And he goes out there, and there's, it could have been a ghost, could have been anything.
Oh, yeah.
He sees something sort of hunched over the deck.
Oh, yeah.
And so he slowly approaches it.
So tense, man.
And then he turns it over, and it's a body that's been cut in two. And then we find out
the top half is different from the bottom half.
Oh, my God. The top half is from a guy named John.
Hey, wait.
But the bottom half is from a guy named John.
Oh, now, come on. Did you find this scene tense? I was like, oh, dude, just forget it. But what this scene affords us that I really did like, admittedly, it's hidden in this fog, hidden in this mist. It's not fog, whatever it is.
You see it out there.
You see Tuunbaq out there, and Hickey sees it. This is a message from Tuunbaq. What is Tuunbaq's purpose? Because he's not...
Well, I think Tuunbaq is a pathological serial killer. And, they say sometimes when they work, they start to escalate. And so now he's starting to do art pieces with his murders. He's like, if I can get my hands on 2 guys, I can build 1 guy. If I get my hands on 3 guys, I can do like a windmill.
I think the art that Tuunbaq is making is a lot like Jackson Pollock's. It's just splotches of blood everywhere with no rhyme or reason. Hickey, he's the one who's like, the Eskimo girl, you spotted her camp. Where is it? Tell me exactly where you found it. Hickey gets 2 buddies, Hartnell and Mason, and they're going to go get this woman. What the hell is going on?
To me, I would love to hear what our double L's,
loyal listeners,
right, think about this, especially the ones who say that they thought Hickey was definitely a bad guy in history, and that they feel like they're sort of following that in the show. What did they think of, we talked about it up top. Was this a good move by him? Was it a smart move? Was it a really bad move? Was he showing himself to be a villain here, or, as some might posit, trying to save the day?
Right, trying to show these Marines, hey, you're talking tough about how you're in the front lines. I'll go get this woman.
Well, not just that, not just trying to... obviously he is trying to, show that he is worthwhile and got some gumption and everything. So it's not totally selfless. He wants to get some recognition for it. And so... basically, he does get recognition. People sit around while he gets a trophy, a.k.a. a whip, pinned to his chest, butt.
Ouch. And so that moment of Hickey approaching that victim on the ship, it's hardcore. It's great. But maybe my second favorite moment in the episode is the whipping, is the spanking. But before we get to it, we got to get to Crozier's response. He hears this. He sees what's happened to Lady Silence. He fires it's almost like a flare gun up and says, everybody on your friggin' knees. We're going to get some order here. There will be no violence towards this woman without charges brought and well proved.
He says that, and he doesn't even bother to try to prove the charges that Hickey makes, that they are in collusion together.
Right.
So that's interesting that, I still thought that he that they might take him below deck and then maybe chastise him a little bit, but act on this information. I was completely taken aback by the response of Crozier to this guy. Now, once he starts kind of back-talking, even though I agree with what Hickey's saying, you can see it makes Crozier angry. His face... Well, I was going to say it gets redder, but it's not possible because it's already the maximal level of redness.
Now, Hickey starts the tale by kind of talking up his boys, bragging. This Hartnell, he was the first one to the ridge. And then I climbed down, I looked past it. And so I want to get this as close to possible as Hickey's words. We didn't see this. We don't know what to say. He says he saw her Eskimo house, and then he saw another thing next to it, which turned out to be Tuunbaq, the evil polar bear. But this isn't a typical polar bear. The thing sat up, and it was gigantic, 3 times bigger than any bear he's seen. And this is an important note, I find, with a different set to its head. I want people to remember that the way the totem, the little charm that was on Lady Silence's father before, had a bear with an extra long neck. So not, quote-unquote, a straight representation of the bear.
So it's a bearaf. A bear and a giraffe.
Then she had her hands out. So he's claiming Lady Silence had her hands out like she was, making some kind of devilish deal with Tuunbaq. And then he says Tuunbaq left. It spooked off and ran, possibly by her. Could Lady Silence really say, Tuunbaq, stop doing this crap? Because she said she wasn't ready way back when we met her and her dearly departed father.
Well, now... Crozier says he wants the charges well-founded. Now, again, you said at the top of this podcast, should we trust in what Hickey has said? Now, the way he's describing it, there's 2 guys standing right next to him that could at least be asked, did you see something like this? Did you see any of it? If they'd said, no, we were... we were in different positions. We could have...
I was on the ridge. He was...
Right. But Crozier doesn't even bother to do that. He's out of control. I think Crozier is off of Catfish's crew.
Whoa.
You can put him in Bubba's boat if you want, but only if you wanted to be steered drunkenly in the wrong direction.
Well, no, listen, I don't like to drink alone, so come on, Captain. Crozier, he's going to give him lashes, and those look brutal. But you're right. When Hickey talks back, whoa, not good. This is not approved, probably even in today's Army. You don't talk back like that. Now, you don't get friggin' punished as a boy across your derriere so you can't even sit down comfortably anymore. But oh, so brutal. And let's just get to it. Poor Captain Crozier.
You can't wait.
Captain Crozier, again. Whip, again. Hickey, who just a week ago was bragging, hey, I had a drink with it. I could move up in Captain Crozier's ranks. He has moved down in Captain Crozier's mind. Ooh. And this is just brutal, but I love the scene. But mainly what I loved about the scene was the reactions. And I wonder if Crozier is losing his crew. His crew loved the idea that Hickey brought this evil woman back.
Now, I don't know
and
if
then
it was...
to see Hickey get treated this way, maybe they're thinking that'll happen to me. Oh, my God.
Now, I don't know if it was a mistake or not, or something I just inferred, but at one point they go across the crew, and most of them have horrified looks in their eyes, but one guy has a look like, yeah, this bastard deserved it. I'm enjoying every second of Hickey getting lashed. And now it's not Hickey's boy, the one who told on him, who's enjoying it.
No, Mr. Gibson looks like he's horrified. But
right. It's the guy right after Mr. Gibson who has sort of a, yes, get him.
Get him! Ice cold reaction to these red hot whips. Oh my Lord! But even the Marines seemingly are like, oh God, I don't want this. And why could Crozier be losing the crew? Now we knew the Terror is being kind of shoved up the ice once again, just 9 inches today. But the fact that the crew sees this and then they're like, okay, how many you guys here on the Terror want to go stay on the Erebus? And all but 10 say, yeah, I'll go. Crozier, you can't lose the crew.
Yeah, well, that's what he's doing. I mean, when these guys, they probably understand, okay, he disobeyed orders.
Yep.
But when they see how Crozier is kind of dealing with Lady Silence, I mean, geez, he was so worried about it. He's like, I got to get her off my ship.
Yeah.
I got to get her off my ship. Now, of course, what he doesn't realize is that pretty much everybody from his ship is now also on Lady Silence's ship. She'd be safer back on his ship now.
Oh, God, just brutal. Hickey tries to, he was punished as a boy, but he tries to, quote-unquote, man up and say, yeah, you didn't hurt me, I got it, but oh, boy. So Hickey, after he gets his butt healed and patched up and those wounds taken care of as best you could take care of them on this ship, he goes back to his little swinging bunk.
And he's got some
in pouch
there.
that he smells. What do you think that is?
No, I'm asking you what you think that is.
Once again, I do not
Now, wait,
know.
we do have to talk a little bit before that because there's something that sort of seems like it's going to carry forward, and that is Mr. Goodsir is checking out another guy who got injured, and frankly, I can't remember when the heck he got injured or who this guy is. How do you possibly get injured and not die these days? I don't know. But he's checking out the guy's teeth. It's funny, as we were watching, I said to you, how are we supposed to know what's wrong with the guy's teeth? Because we have no idea how good or bad
dental
hygiene is, and also what you expect for 2 years on the ice. Probably not even in a good addition. So I don't know whether whatever's wrong with them is something that's going to affect the whole crew. It's just that there's not good hygiene, or whether there's some supernatural or some other thing. But I actually kind of think that it's not supernatural. It's just, oh my God, these guys are falling apart.
Well, this injured guy, his name is Morphin. And he's talking about, boy, Mr.
He's not mighty.
Mr. Goodsir, have you ever been whipped? Goodsir's like, of course not. And this guy, yeah, you're right. You look at the teeth. Is it possible, number one, that scurvy shows up in the teeth? Or number two, that maybe this spoiled food is poisoning him? And that's what's messing up his teeth so much? Because they look terrible.
They do look black. But once again, I look at them and I go, yes, obviously, if this was set in modern day, that would be horrific. But for somebody who's been stuck in the ice for a year, you know what? Not so bad.
All right, so listeners, if you know what's in this pouch that Hickey keeps in his swinging bunk bed, let us know. He took a sniff of it and then he put it back in. The episode ends with Crozier, getting the bad news. Yeah, all but 10 say let's go. And then it ends with Goodsir going to Lady Silence and trying to build some sort of teamwork.
He's gonna make friends, Mr. Goodsir making friends with Lady Silence.
He may have to draw some pictures. She's not going to learn English anytime soon, Mr. Goodsir. And what could you do? Is this the approach? So, way back when they found out, okay, Lady Silence's father is killed. Any chance that her people might come and try to get revenge? Mr. Blanky was the one...
It's not necessary.
Right, Mr. Blanky was the one who said, no, everybody out here is just trying to survive. They don't have petty things to do like revenge. But old Tuunbaq is getting revenge. And is there anything you could do to get her to, if she does have a connection with Tuunbaq, to chill out? Go away. Bring Tuunbaq with you. Get away from us. What could it be?
I mean, if you could make a connection, that would be great. My only problem with, and you could have guessed it anyway, is, you watch a show and if it's something that's a short series, you can assume something is going to happen.
You're very positive. You've been given 8s and 9s to this show through the first 4 episodes.
I have. I just find it fascinating. It's, if this had been the third show that I'd seen about guys trying to survive in the frozen world in the 1800s, then maybe I would ask for something special. But I'm seeing something new I've never seen before. I actually do like. I used to watch this show about people trying to climb Everest, and it was kind of a documentary show.
The great book Into Thin Air is another one about people in extreme conditions.
So I really do like. I refer to it sometimes as weather porn. I do like the kind of weather disasters. And so to me, this is fascinating. It's something I haven't seen before. And on top of that, it's got the extra layer of my boy TB Tuunbaq. So I'm all in. They've got me.
I love the tense scenes. I talked about them going out on this, what I considered a ridiculous expedition to try to get Tuunbaq in the middle of the night with teams of just two.
You say that, and yet there obviously was not much day left. It's like let's not do it at night. Let's do it tomorrow when we've got 1 minute of
All right,
daylight.
everybody, 1 minute. Look for that jerk tune.
Quick, then run back.
And I love the kind of the drama that is going to happen. You can see it. This crew is going to be split in two with Hickey.
You say
with
two,
against
but I
Hickey.
think it's going to be split into 9/10 and 1/10.
Listeners, we want you to go to our Facebook page. Once again, as soon as you watch the episode, give us a comment on the Facebook page. We'll include them as we record these podcasts. Also, just like the Facebook page. We want you guys to be part of our Team Tuunbaq here on the Double P podcast.
Double T, Team Tuunbaq.
Next week, we're going to deal with Episode 5. We'll reach the halfway point. First shot a winner, lads. A strange illness begins to show itself while another, more familiar one jeopardizes the expedition's most valuable resource, its captain's judgment. Uh-oh. Oh, boy. Trouble.
Oh, do you think do you think Crozier drank the entire 5 years of liquor already, and so he's getting the DTs?
Oh,
so
no.
obviously the unfamiliar illness is whatever's going on with the teeth, and the familiar one is the captain being weaned off of booze.
I got the shakes, crew. I got the shakes.
Captain Crozier, he's now on Bubba's boat.
Oh, yeah.
Not on Catfish's crew anymore.
Oh, man.
As soon as they turn bad, Bubba takes them.
Also, go to the Facebook page and give us your ice colds of the week. If we miss any ice cold disses, ice cold shoulders that the people are giving each other, let us know. For everybody here on the Double P Podcast Network, my name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM at Fit and Trim on Twitter.
And I'm Catfish. You can hit me up at CJGman67. And we'll talk to you next week on Ice Cold.
Again. You know, we're going to miss the rest of the 30 whips over the next week.
I'm just going to keep doing it.